So imagine looking up into the sky, right? And you see these two massive reddish-brown birds of prey. I mean, each one has a wingspan the length of a dining room table.
Oh, yeah, they are huge.
Right. And they're soaring high above the tree line. They circle each other, and then suddenly they just lock their talons together midair.
Which is wild to watch.
It really is. Because instead of fighting, they just fold their wings and intentionally go into this crazy free fall. They spiral downward, spinning like a massive feathered wheel.
Yeah, plummeting toward the ground at a breakneck speed.
Exactly. And they only let go of each other at the very last second to catch the wind and glide away.
It's honestly one of the most spectacular mating displays in the animal kingdom. Ornithologists usually refer to it as cartwheeling.
Cartwheeling, yeah.
And, you know, it takes an incredible amount of aerodynamic control to pull that off without just crashing into the dirt.
It's basically nature's extreme sports.
Uh,
But what makes this bird, the red kite, so fascinating isn't just the acrobatics.
no, not at all.
Like when you hear a phrase like endemic species with global conservation responsibility, your brain immediately jumps to, I don't know, some remote corner of the globe.
Right, you picture a rare tree frog in the Amazon canopy.
Or like a specialized marine iguana out on the Galapagos. You assume the epicenter of global biodiversity must be untouched wilderness.
We are definitely conditioned to think that way. I mean, we assume saving a species means fencing off a jungle halfway across the world.
Yeah.
But the reality of modern conservation is often, well, much closer to home. It's playing out in our own backyards and agricultural fields.
Because right here in Europe, looking up at those cartwheeling birds, you are looking at a creature whose global survival relies almost entirely on the agricultural and political decisions of a single country.
Which is Germany.
Exactly. So today's deep dive is all about the red kite, or Milvus.
Well, that's a scientific name, yeah.
Right. And for this, we're pulling together a huge stack of sources. We've got environmental impact reports, massive European conservation action plans like Landsamleben and Life Eurokite.
Which is a fascinating project, by the way.
Oh, we are definitely getting into that later. We also have ornithological data from the Dachverband Deutscher Avifaunisten and legal assessments regarding green energy infrastructure.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But our mission today is to figure out why this specific, highly acrobatic bird is at the center of a massive international conservation effort. And really, how its fate is caught squarely in the crosshairs of the green energy transition.
Yeah, and to really grasp the tension they're under today, we have to look at the sheer concentration of their population.
Right, the numbers are wild.
They are. Germany holds over 50% of the entire global population of the red kite.
50%. In one country.
Yes. Current estimates put it somewhere between 14,000 to 22,000 breeding pairs just within German borders.
Wow.
And historically, if you looked at the Harz region in central Germany, you'd find the highest density of these birds anywhere in the world. I mean, sometimes up to 40 pairs packed into just 100 square kilometers.
That feels like, well, it's like Germany is essentially the sole landlord for a very demanding, very specific tenant.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. If that one building goes under, half the global species is just out on the street. It's an insane amount of localized pressure.
It really is.
And the history of this building has been a wild ride. Like, if we trace their population timeline, they were actually doing incredibly well for a while.
They were. From the 1950s through the 1980s, their numbers were steadily climbing.
Which totally makes sense when you consider the 1977 ban on hunting raptors in Germany.
Yeah, coupled with banning devastating pesticides like DDT.
Right, the stuff that was thinning their eggshells. So they were thriving. But then, right around the early 1990s, the floor just completely falls out from under them.
Just a massive crash.
Devastating population crash. And I have to push back here. Wait, if they were doing so incredibly well after the 77 hunting ban, what on earth caused them to just plummet in the 90s?
Well, that crash is what puzzled conservationists for a really long time.
Because I'm trying to piece together what else was happening in Germany in the early 90s. I mean, we just had reunification. The Berlin Wall falls in 89.
Right.
Did the sudden privatization and restructuring of East German collective farms suddenly change the landscape? Or, I don't know, was there some new invasive predator introduced?
You are right on the money with the landscape transformation. It wasn't a predator at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a fundamental shift in how the land was managed across the entirety of the newly reunified country. We moved rapidly toward highly optimized, modern industrial agriculture.
Okay, so what did that actually look like for the bird?
Well, almost overnight, we lost vast amounts of fallow fields.
Right, fallow fields being the ones farmers intentionally leave unplanted for a season or two so the soil can recover.
Exactly. And ecologically, fallow fields are absolute havens for field mice, voles, hamsters, which, are the red kite's primary food source.
So by optimizing the land for maximum crop yield every single season, we basically paved over their natural grocery stores.
We did, but the agricultural shift was only half the blow.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. The other half was a process we can call the hygienization of the landscape.
Hygienization.
Yeah.
Meaning we literally cleaned up our mess, which starved a scavenger.
Right. Historically, red kites relied really heavily on our waste.
Like garbage.
Yeah, they would flock to open municipal garbage dumps, and they'd feed on livestock carcasses left out in the fields.
Okay, that makes sense.
But throughout the 90s, new strict environmental and health regulations mandated that open dumps be closed or covered up. And agricultural hygiene laws required carcasses to be swiftly removed and incinerated.
Which, I mean, from a human public health perspective, that is a massive success story. We definitely don't want open, rotting garbage dumps near our towns.
Definitely not.
But from the perspective of a bird that makes its living cleaning up carrion, that is a sudden, catastrophic disappearance of a major food source.
Exactly. Which forces them to rely almost entirely on hunting live prey in agricultural fields.
Which brings us to the current crisis in the fields. Because the landscape didn't just stop changing in the 90s, right? It evolved again with the push for renewable energy.
Yes. We saw a massive rise in the cultivation of what we call energy crops.
Meaning things like rapeseed and maize.
Right. Specifically those. They're grown to be fed into biodigesters for biomass energy production.
And this is where the mechanics of how a red kite hunts become their biggest liability.
It really is.
Because they aren't peregrine falcons. They don't tuck their wings and dive bomb at 200 miles an hour.
No, they are patrollers. They soar at a relatively moderate altitude using thermals to glide efficiently, and they just constantly scan the ground.
So they need open structured land to actually spot a mouse scurrying in the grass.
Exactly. Now, imagine swapping out a traditional low-cut pasture or a patchy fallow field for a modern field of rapeseed.
Rapeseed grows incredibly dense.
Very dense. It creates a thick, unbroken green canopy. And maize, on the other hand, grows incredibly tall, often well over a human's head.
Okay, I can picture that. So the food is technically still there. Like, there are probably thousands of mice running around the stalks of that maize field.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's like putting their dinner at the very bottom of a massive ball pit. They just physically can't get to it.
That's the perfect analogy. The prey is abundant, but the availability to the bird is basically zero.
Wow.
And we see this heavily reflected in the breeding data. You have parents flying frantically over hundreds of acres of biologically productive green land, but they're returning to the nest empty-handed.
That's heartbreaking. So this dense vegetation leads directly to widespread starvation of chicks right in the nest.
Yes. And the situation is compounded by how conventional agriculture manages those unseen mice.
Oh no, let me guess. Poison.
Yep. When there's a sudden population boom of field mice under that canopy, farmers naturally respond with rodenticides.
So now we are introducing poison into a food web where the apex predator is already starving.
Exactly.
The kite finally spots a mouse because the mouse is, acting sluggish from the poison, eats it, and gets a fatal dose of secondary poisoning.
It's an incredibly dark irony.
It really is. The very push to grow green bioenergy crops to fight climate change is actively shrinking the hunting grounds and starving the chicks of a highly protected species.
The conflict between green initiatives and biodiversity is just stark here, but conservationists are fighting back on the agricultural front.
Right. I saw in the sources a major effort called the Rotmullen Land zum Leben project.
Which translates to red kite land, to live.
Nice. And this ran for several years, bringing together land care associations, wildlife foundations, and ornithologists.
Essentially to sit down with farmers and redesign the agricultural landscape to be kite-friendly.
But wait, are they asking farmers to just stop growing energy crops altogether? Because that seems like a really tough sell economically.
It is a tough sell, which is why the project focuses on pragmatic alternatives and compensation rather than just bans.
Okay, what kind of alternatives?
One of the main strategies is advising farmers to plant alfalfa, which is also known as lucerne.
Okay, why alfalfa?
It's a leguminous crop that is low-growing but still highly productive for the farmer. And crucially, it supports robust mouse populations while leaving those mice visible to a bird soaring overhead.
Ah, So it's a compromised crop. It gives the farmer a yield and gives the bird a hunting ground.
Exactly. And furthermore, they compensate farmers for altering their mowing schedules.
How does mowing affect them?
Well, if every farmer in a single valley mows their grass on the exact same weekend, the red kites get a temporary, massive feast because suddenly all the cover is gone.
Right, it's a buffet.
But that buffet is followed by weeks of famine.
Oh, I see.
So, by staggering the mowing times across different fields, farmers create a continuous, accessible food supply throughout the entire crucial chick rearing season.
That is so smart. That solves some of the tension on the ground.
It does.
But the lack of food in these dense biocrop fields has a secondary effect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It forces the red kites to fly further and further away from their nests to find a meal, pushing them into new industrialized territories.
Yes.
And as they take to the sky to commute to these new hunting grounds, they run face first into another massive spinning pillar of the green energy transition, wind turbines.
Yeah. And this specific interaction is perhaps one of the most visible, highly debated, and honestly politically charged conservation conflicts in Europe today.
I can imagine.
The ornithological data out of the state of Brandenburg alone records over 600 confirmed turbine strikes involving red kites. They are disproportionately represented in collision statistics compared to other birds.
Which really begs the question, why? I mean, birds have incredible eyesight.
Right.
If I can see a 300-foot wind turbine from 5 miles away, why on earth is a highly evolved bird of prey flying straight into the blades?
It comes right back to their evolutionary hunting posture.
Because they're patrollers.
Exactly. Because they are open land scavengers and patrollers, their attention is almost entirely focused downward. They're constantly scanning the grass for the slightest movement of a mouse or a piece of carrion.
Oh, so they aren't even looking where they're going.
Basically, because their gaze is locked on the ground, their forward vision has a blind spot. Telemetry and visual observation data show they frequently fail to exhibit any avoidance behavior towards spinning blades right in their flight path.
They simply don't see the threat until it's too late.
Sadly, yes.
I can see why this is such a lightning rod for political debate. On one hand, you have undeniable peer-reviewed conservation data proving that wind farms pose a severe, localized mortality threat to a bird that Germany is legally bound by national and EU law to protect.
Right. And if a turbine is proposed too close to a known nesting site, the risk models show that the adult birds have an unacceptably high chance of being struck. That legal strict protection status is a really powerful tool.
But looking at the legal assessments in our stack of data, proponents of wind energy development are crying foul.
They are.
They're arguing that this strict protection status is frequently being weaponized. The phrase that comes up in German legal disputes is Vorgeschobenes Argument, a pretended argument.
Yes, that comes up a lot.
Basically, they claim local citizen groups who are suffering from Nembani syndrome, not in my backyard, just don't want a wind farm ruining their aesthetic view of the rolling hills.
Right. The argument is that they don't actually care about the red kite.
Exactly. But they use the bird's presence as an impenetrable legal shield to permanently halt green infrastructure projects.
It is a phenomenal legal tangle.
Yeah.
You have genuine conservationists trying to save an endemic species, wind energy developers trying to meet aggressive national renewable targets, and local communities caught in the middle.
Sometimes using environmental law for aesthetic preservation.
Right.
So are we fundamentally forced to choose between hitting our renewable energy targets and saving our national bird? Or is this a false dichotomy?
Well, technology might be providing a bridge.
Ugh. Because we can't hit our climate goals without wind power. But hitting those goals shouldn't require the extinction of our most iconic birds. So if they can't see the turbines, we have to find a way to make the turbines see the birds.
Are they using like some kind of radar system to detect them and shut the blades down?
Radar is used in some applications, sure, but the real breakthrough discussed in recent environmental tech assessments is optical AI.
Optical AI.
Yeah, a prominent system being tested right now is called Identiflight. Instead of radar, it uses a ring of high-resolution stereoscopic cameras mounted on a tower near the wind farm.
Okay.
And these cameras are tied into a neural network that has been trained on millions of images of birds in flight.
So it's scanning the sky, spotting a silhouette against the clouds, and analyzing the flight pattern in real time to decide, yes, that's a red kite, not a crow.
Precisely that.
Wow.
If the system positively identifies a red kite and calculates that its current flight trajectory will intersect with the spinning rotor-swept area...
The danger zone. Right. It automatically sends a signal to the turbine's braking system to temporarily feather the blades and slow the rotor down until the bird passes.
That sounds like a brilliant technological bridge.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if I'm an energy company CEO, my immediate thought is, if this camera shuts down my turbine every time a bird flies by, I'm never going to generate any electricity.
That is exactly the concern.
Right, my multi-million-euro turbine just becomes a very expensive lawn ornament.
That was definitely the initial hesitation. But this is where pairing camera technology with GPS tracking data changes the game completely.
How so?
By analyzing millions of data points from tracked red kites, ornithologists discovered that 81% of their flights actually occur below the rotor zone.
Wait, really? 81%?
Yes, because they are low-altitude hunters, they are mostly flying underneath the massive blades.
Oh, wow, that changes the math completely. It's like, well, it's like driving a massive truck fleet under a low overpass. Most of the time, the standard trucks pass right underneath without an issue. You only need the laser warning system to trigger a stop for that one freakishly tall, oversized load.
That is a very apt way to look at it. The AI cameras only need to initiate a shutdown for the small percentage of flights where a bird catches an updraft or changes its behavior and actually enters that critical danger zone.
So the turbine keeps spinning most of the time.
Right. It offers a practical compromise, though it does require constant, rigorous scientific validation. We have to ensure the algorithms aren't missing birds in poor weather or, failing to trigger the brakes in time.
Makes sense. So we have engineers training AI neural networks to manage the skies.
Yeah.
But while that tech is looking up, conservationists are deploying their own advanced technology to look down, investigating much darker mysteries on the ground. And these mysteries aren't just limited to Germany, right? They span the entire European continent.
They do. We have to address the transition from the structural threats of modern infrastructure to direct, intentional human harm.
The illegal stuff.
Yeah. Despite being granted the highest level of strict protection, illegal persecution of the red kite is rampant and highly organized.
The scenarios outlined in these reports read like a true crime thriller.
It's awful.
You have cases of birds being deliberately shot out of the sky. You have perpetrators sneaking into the woods at night with chainsaws to fell ancient trees simply because there's an active red kite nest in the canopy.
Which is just senseless.
But the most insidious, widespread weapon they face is poison. Specifically, illegal agricultural chemicals like carbofuran.
Yes, carbofuran is an incredibly potent, highly toxic pesticide. It has been banned in the European Union for years because of how dangerous it is.
But people still have it.
Unfortunately, yes. It is still illegally stockpiled and used by certain individuals to bait pieces of meat. Usually the intention is to illegally kill foxes, martens, or returning wolves.
And because the red kite is a natural scavenger, it spots the easy meal from the air, drops down, and just becomes collateral damage.
Exactly. The poison is so fast-acting that the bird often dies within minutes of ingesting it.
That's terrifying. And historically, finding a poisoned bird in a dense forest or a massive field was like finding a needle in a haystack.
Oh, nearly impossible. The evidence would run away long before anyone even knew a crime had been committed.
Which is exactly why the Life Eurokite project was launched.
Right. This is a massive, multi-million euro European conservation effort that has completely revolutionized how we protect these birds.
What are they doing differently?
Well, they've managed to physically capture and equip over 2,000 red kites with highly advanced GPS telemetry trackers.
These are basically little solar-powered backpacks for the birds, right?
Yes, tiny, lightweight units fitted with Teflon harnesses that don't impede their flight at all.
Awesome.
At a baseline, these trackers are mapping the birds' incredible migration routes. While some populations stay in Germany year-round, many of these kites migrate across borders, heading to wintering grounds down in Spain or southern France.
But the mapping is just a bonus, right? I mean, the real superpower of this project is that it acts as a continent-wide, real-time mortality alert system.
Exactly. These trackers aren't just pinging GPS coordinates, they contain accelerometers and temperature sensors.
Oh, wow.
If a tracked bird suddenly stops moving for an unnatural amount of time, or if the sensor detects a rapid drop in body temperature indicating the bird has died, the system immediately fires off an automated alert to a local network of conservation teams.
Meaning a team can hike out into the wilderness with the exact coordinates and find the body within hours, rather than months.
Yes, it preserves the crime scene.
It's basically a real-time, cross-border true crime tracking system for birds.
Yeah.
They can swab the bait, run full toxicology reports before the chemical degrades, and actually hand law enforcement actionable forensic evidence.
Exactly. They are uncovering hidden hotspots of illegal poisoning across Europe that we never would have known existed otherwise.
That is incredible.
It fundamentally shifts conservation from passive observation to active forensic enforcement. And the data from Life Eurokite proves an essential reality. Borders mean absolutely nothing to a migrating raptor.
Right. A bird that is born in the Harz region, where local farmers have meticulously altered their mowing schedules and planted alfalfa to ensure it survives, might get clipped by a wind turbine in a neighboring state.
Or it might successfully migrate, only to eat a carbofuran-laced bait on a wintering ground in Spain.
Exactly. It makes it crystal clear that saving this species requires intense, real-time transnational data sharing. We just cannot protect them in a vacuum.
No, we can't. Environmental stewardship in the 21st century is no longer just about putting a fence around a forest. It requires the integration of highly advanced technology, international law enforcement cooperation, and a deep understanding of our own energy systems.
It is a remarkable, slightly dizzying journey we've tracked today.
It really is.
We followed the red kite from its historical strongholds in Germany through the unintended starvation caused by dense bioenergy crops meant to save the climate, straight into the highly politicized airspace of wind turbines, and finally into this modern era of cross-border high-tech GPS crime monitoring.
The red kite story highlights how deeply intertwined a single wild species is with the very fabric of how humans choose to generate power, grow food, and enforce our laws.
So the next time you're driving through the countryside or taking a walk, and you happen to look up and spot a reddish bird with a distinctly forked tail gliding effortlessly on the thermals above you, I want you to remember what you're actually looking at.
It's not just a bird.
Right. You aren't just looking at a pretty bird. You're looking at a survivor, navigating a highly engineered, deeply complex modern world. And you are looking at a creature for which your specific region holds a profound, irreplaceable global responsibility.
It is a profound privilege to share the landscape with them, but it is a privilege that demands our active, highly informed management.
Which leaves us with a lingering philosophical question to ponder.
Oh.
Yeah. If we are now training artificial intelligence camera networks to temporarily stop massive industrial wind turbines in real time to let a bird pass, and if we are strapping solar-powered true crime GPS trackers to thousands of animals to meticulously map their every move and micromanage their survival, at what point does wildlife stop being truly wild?
That is a very good question.
Are we preserving nature, or are we just meticulously integrating these animals into our own technological infrastructure?
Yeah.
Something to think about the next time you look up at the sky.